Let's bring in the Australian Grape and Wine Chief Executive, Lee McLean. Lee, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So this news that's come out of China overnight, what do you make of it?
Well, look, it's a really positive step, and thanks for having me on the program as well. But it is an interim step, so we need to bear that in mind. This has been part of the agreement that the Australian and Chinese governments made back in October for a 5-month review period of these import duties that have been imposed on Australia for a couple of years now. That 5-month review period ends at the end of this month. So this interim review decision is a part of the standard normal practice that we see in these things. It's a positive sign because, of course, it says that in the interim, they believe those import duties should be removed, but we need to wait for that final decision before we can make too much of it.
Right, so you're not exactly popping the champagne corks just yet, Lee.
No, I think it's really important that we have to respect this process. We've got another couple of weeks to go. We'll be supporting that in any way that we possibly can, both through the Australian government and through the Chinese government as well, to provide information. But we do have that extra couple of weeks to go before we can start shipping wine over to Chinese consumers.
Pop open a celebratory glass of Shiraz even.
That's exactly right. And China was such an enormous market for us, $1.2 billion at its peak, primarily a red wine market, and Shiraz was really key to that. So, Chinese consumers, we're really hoping they can get back into some Australian wine in the near future.
Lee, tell me, what percentage of the industry has been able to diversify, move to other markets away from China in that time?
Well, look, it's been a really difficult period. To put it in a little bit of perspective for your listeners, I mentioned that $1.2 billion figure. The next two biggest export markets at that period of time were the US and the UK, and they sat at just under $500 million each. So it was by far and away our largest export market. We've seen a little bit of growth, some green shoots in some emerging markets, Southeast Asia, India, for example, and there was a couple of blips in places like the UK. But overall, we are seeing a global situation at the moment where there is a bit of a decline in consumption, and that makes diversifying your export markets pretty difficult. But having said that, it's still going to have to be a critical part of what we're doing. We need to look to grow markets where we can and provide what consumers want.
Why has there been a decline in consumption? People drinking less? Is there a reason for that? People overseas drinking their own? What would that be down to?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of reasons for it. I mean, firstly, cost of living pressures have really started to bite in areas like the UK and the US, for example, those big markets. But also, there is a global sort of health and wellness trend as well. People are looking to drink lighter styles. They're looking to drink a little bit less alcohol as well. But they are still drinking reasonably premium product as well and high-priced product.
Right. We'll have to leave it there, Lee. Appreciate it, though. We'll talk to you soon.